All right, guys. This set of notes is entitled Life in the South During the Civil War. And as you can see from this picture titled Atlanta Mansion Scarred by Shelling, the South is really going to suffer the brunt of the physical damage from the Civil War. Most of the fighting, not all, but most of the fighting in the Civil War takes place in the South. And so the South is going to suffer the most damage. And we're going to see it has some profound effects after the Civil War eventually. But let's look at what it was like to live in the South during this time period. So average people in the South were really urged and pressured to support the war effort. They were encouraged to volunteer for the army. That's the most practical way you think you can help your country in a time of war. But they were also asked to buy war bonds, which is basically they bought a bond, a sheet of paper from the government that the government promised would pay back with interest at the end of the war. So this way the government could finance the war effort. People were also encouraged to pay higher taxes. So their regular income tax plus 10% of any crops that they produced. And basically to accept the fact that there are going to be shortages. Complaining about them isn't going to do anything about it. This is just the way life is going to be. You're going to have to accept it for the good of the cause. And it's important to understand that the South's economy really struggled throughout the war, and this is going to have significant effects on the everyday lives of people living there. We're going to see prices rise drastically on everyday goods in the South. We're going to see this because there's shortages of goods. They can't get goods brought in to the South, and so the price of these goods are going to increase. And the Union blockade is also going to really play a huge role in hurting the economic output of the South because it's preventing the South from shipping or selling its cash crops like cotton. After the first year of the war, the South instituted the first military draft in U.S. history. And the requirements changed over time, but eventually it meant that white men aged 80 to 50 were eligible, except those who owned over 20 slaves. Those who owned enough property, 20 slaves being the property, were not required to register for the draft. And so this leads to this general belief that, amongst the average people during this time, that the war was a rich man's war, but a poor man's fight. The poor men of the South were the ones doing the fighting for the Confederacy. What we're going to see by 1863 is that the strain of war in the South is really starting to show. The effects are going to lead to a lot of issues for the average people, and they're going to lash out in several ways. We see the bread riot in Richmond, where women took to the streets and because they were so upset about high prices and food shortages, and they rioted in Richmond. They were smashing windows, looting stores. Famously, Jefferson Davis met them, went out into the streets and gave them all the money he had in his pockets. And he said, "That's basically all I can do for you." We also see many men deserting the army after 1863 and just going home to help their families. And similar to what we see in the North, the government of the South is suspending certain rights, individual rights, in order to quiet opposition as people started to call out for an end to the war because it just gotten too burdensome. The government is going to suspend rights to kind of squash that talk. And this kind of goes back to the picture that we saw at the beginning. Large areas of the South are going to be devastated. We're going to see fighting causing devastation, like artillery shelling causes a lot of damage. Troops just marching through fields causes damage. But we're also going to see the North's policy of total war, really is going to wreak havoc in large portions of the South, where they are tearing apart infrastructure, burning buildings and fields, and it's having a huge effect. You can see this picture of Richmond in 1865, where we have buildings basically bombed out and destroyed. And as the North is conquering more and more territory, the Northern Army occupies and rules over large areas of the South as the war goes on. And people who lived in these areas would often flee. They would flee their homes, get up, take everything that they could with them, and move away in hopes of avoiding being under Northern rule. And you can see this picture, people fleeing Charleston to avoid Union occupation or Northern occupation.